get involved with WCYC and the radio?
So this happened by pure happenstance. And my partner Gina Segara, she could not be here today. She was the other cocktail twin. So Gina was, Harv had a contest, and Harv is, they're taking a picture right now. Harv had a contest, and he was, I forgot what the premise of the contest was, but if you won, you got to go be guest DJ for a day. And so Gina, being Gina, won. She was winning at everything back then. And she's like, amiga, would you go with me? I'm a little bit scared. I'm nervous. I don't know what to expect. And I'm like, Gina, but we're just gonna do this. You're out and in the public, and you're a good speaker, so don't worry. I will go there and be by your side. So Harv was nice enough to welcome us into the studio, and we were on air for the day, and then he welcomed the response that he got from his listeners, and he invited us back. And it was such a joy to be able to go back there, and another invite turned into another invite, turned into a regular co-hosting spot on Harv's show. So thank you to Harv Roman for giving this opportunity to two young Latinas from La Villita. It was just a great experience to be exposed to something through the Chicago Boys and Girls Club on 90.5 WCYC with our 8 watts strong. And we were lucky to have this opportunity. That's how I got my start. I'll stop there. I tend to talk too much. Milana, go ahead.
So first of all, thank you for having me here. I feel like I'm on This Is Your Life, because I walk through here and I see people that I grew up with. We were all babies, and look at us now. We're old, but my start, back in 1981, I answered an ad that was in the Clear Ridge Reporter, and it was for broadcasting classes. So I was only 14 years old, and Tom Ramos, it was a class of just Tom and I. And we worked under the late Harold Kopta, and we basically ran the Polish show. So we learned how to run the reels and how to just broadcast. We got our little licenses. And then from there, we worked under Kenny Jason. He was our first program director. And Kenny basically taught us how to be an on-air personality, you know, how to introduce the songs, what the cartridges look like, and all that good stuff. And like I said, I was only 14. Later on, I was in Lourdes High School, and I continued to work at CYC there under Milana Gonzalez. And then I ended up meeting Juan Tovar, actually, and he was already at WCRX. So we talked, and he was like, you know, if you really like this, you should come to Columbia. And I graduated from high school. I went to Daly College on my way to become a teacher. And he said, you know, I've listened to you on CYC, you sound really good, you probably would be really good at Columbia, make a career out of it. And I said, oh, really? And yeah, so I stopped what I was doing at Daly, and I went to Columbia College. And I met the program director there, who was Jeff Capucci at the time. And I was in a radio class, and my instructor was DJ at Magic 104, Jack Miller, and it was an assignment that we had where we had to turn in a radio show, and all I had was CYC airtime, so I turned it in, and in the middle of the class, he's like, stop, and he said, come here with me, girl. So we went to CRX, and he's like, hey, do you hear this girl? She needs to be on your air. So that is how Carrie Cortinas was born, because I was on both stations at one time, and CRX wouldn't let me unless I changed my name. So my real middle name is Carrie. Cortinas is a long story, but it is a legit name. Belongs to my dad. And so I went with Carrie Cortinas, and I was on both shows. And then after Kenny, we were working under Harv. And then, yeah, I mean, it was the best time of my life. I then worked for Q101. I was on a program called Night Times with Carla Leonardo. And then my mom and dad said, your City of Chicago job is ready for you. And back then we listened to our moms and dads, because I didn't want the mundas. And I had to be with the City of Chicago. So I started working with the Chicago Police Department. I gave them 26 years. And I don't know how we got to now, but I'm a teacher and I teach kindergarten in Archer Heights. I went back to, I forgot the middle part. So I left the city in 2019 when I got divorced. I took my kids and moved them over to the suburbs. I tried to get a job with Aurora PD. I thought it was gonna be awesome because I'm still talking to someone on the radio, talking to cops. And my first day, it was the Henry Pratt shooting in which 5 officers were shot and 6 people were killed. So after that, I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm gonna go back to my teaching, I'm gonna be a teacher, and here I am. I'm still talking to people, they're just kids. So.
Okay, I got started with people in those radios. So, did you ever think back that your role would be remembered as being a pioneer, being Latina in the 90s and on the air?
So my career with CYC was the beginning and the end of my broadcasting career, unfortunately, because I also am an educator. So we have more in common. So I was listening to your story and I'm like, oh, like there's a lot of mirroring in our stories. And because my mother was a single mother and she was an educator, she liked the idea that I was so enthusiastic about being in radio and possibly pursuing that, but also she talked to me about the real side of things, because this was in the late 80s. And so in the late 80s, things were different. And I've heard stories where it's still different, you know, where the sexism that exists is real and where women aren't, you know, afforded the same opportunities as their male counterparts, unfortunately. And my mom had a real conversation with me about, hey, well, you can go ahead and pursue that and you can go to Columbia if you want, but mija, be prepared for what comes, because there might be sexual advances, there might be, oh yeah, I'll give you this if you give me that. And we didn't have that at CYC. And I was like, Mom, no. And she's like, no, really, mija, you know, decide what you're gonna do and do whatever you wanna do and I will support you. So that kind of got me thinking, and it kind of changed my mind a bit. I changed my mind, not what my mom said, but I was like, I didn't want that struggle. And I'm like, I'm good at so many things that, you know, one thing I was very supported by my family. My mom was a lifelong educator, still is, still teaching me every day. When I want to have a meltdown, she reminds me to keep it together. My dad was a restaurateur, and so he was Greek, my mom was Mexican. I had this never fitting in complex because the Mexicans thought I was too white and the Greeks thought I was too Mexican. So I call myself a Grexican, right? I'm lucky enough I found my community in all these fantastic people at CYC, like Harv Roman. I later ended up in high school with Gino Rock and Romo. Gabriel Guital Garcia, they all went to Bogan after me, but they were friends with my bestie. And so it was just this, this connection. But did I ever think I would be a pioneer? No. And essentially, I don't feel like I ever was. But when I saw that question on the sheet, I'm like, wow, I was doing things that others weren't doing. And what a great experience that I was afforded by pure chance, thanks to my partner in crime, Gina Segarra, like I said, who couldn't be here with us today, the other cocktail twin, because if she would have never invited me, I would have never had this opportunity. And much like Milana, I am also an educator. I have been with CPS since 1996, but with a 15-year break in the middle, educating Latino and Black children throughout the city. It is my honor to be able to serve them. And when I was talking this week about this at work, and to a friend who had no idea, she's like, oh my God, you were on the radio? She's like, what year was this? Right. So I didn't see myself as a pioneer, but I was awarded that opportunity at a very young age, and I'm so grateful because it helped me loosen up to be able to talk to people, to know my voice, and to believe in myself, and to be able to lay the foundation for raising my 2 Latina daughters and educating so many Latino children here in the city, well, over there in the city of Chicago. So I am grateful for the opportunity, but no, I never thought I would be here.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think we're all pioneers in our own way. But I'll tell you a little story that made me think of what you were saying. So I teach at St. Bruno and Richard in Archer Heights. And over the summer, I had to meet with our marketing person to think of some things we can do. And she said, oh, and Gino, by the way, I'm gonna be hitting you up tonight. She said, hey, she's like, let's throw this fall fest. And we can invite Gino Rock and Romo because I know him. I said, oh, I know him too. And she says, okay, well, let's do this and that. And she goes, girl, I can't think of it, but I used to listen to this other station too. And I go, was it CRX? She goes, that was it, CRX. And then she goes, I would run home, girl. There was this one girl, Carrie Contreras or something. And I said, oh, was it Carrie Cortina? She goes, yeah, girl. She goes, I would listen to her. And I go, wow. I go, that's cool. I listened to her too. She said, oh, okay. I go, you know what, Rocio? And she goes, what? I go, I'm Carrie Cortina. She goes, shut the up. And I said, no, I'm for real. I'm Carrie Cortina. She goes, girl, she said, and I'm Irene Mojica. And I said, no, I'm for real. So it wasn't until I showed her about this event, she's like, shut the, and our new principal had just walked in and she goes, shut the, she goes, do you know who this girl is? My principal's like, no. And she said, she's Carrie Cortinas. And so when you say that, it's like, yeah, you kind of were something to somebody. And, you know, in retrospect now, yeah, I guess we were something. I look at it as I was a big dummy who was bold enough to get on the radio and start talking. And when I was at CYC, I was the only female. So I had to deal with Tom Ramos and Mario Reyes and Pedro Rodriguez and Miguel Rodriguez. And I was like the stepchild. I was like, give it to her, she'll do it. Give it to her. I was like Mikey. And I had to deal with it because nobody stuck up for me. So in retrospect, again, I think we can all be pioneers. It's just whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. Somebody is watching you and someone is admiring you. So that's how I look at it.
What is one of your most unforgettable moments while you were on the air? Like, what did you take with you?
I think just the awe of being in front of a microphone and they're like, go ahead, talk. And I'm like, about what? I mean, you know, relating to music and seeing all that. So I don't think it was defined by one great moment. I will say that it was a learning process and just being afforded, like I said, the opportunity to see others interact and engage with the equipment. I was young, I was like 16, I think, too, when I started. And to hear about Milana, because she was before me, but they were always like, oh, Milana, this and I'm like, who's this Milana? And we were just saying that we just were lucky enough to meet, and it's so funny that we have so much in common, so many similarities, right? So I think just the opportunity to be there and to be able to go in and call that space my own for the time that I was there and interact with the listeners on regular telephones, not cell phones. And they would call and they would say, can you play this for me? And you know that at some point in time, because I was a kid before too, like calling the radio station, asking for a request. That's what we did. Oh, can you send it out to my best friend Rosie? You know, and so it was just being, and I knew how I felt when they would play my song or when they would say something. So I was able to relate in that way as far as hopefully making somebody's afternoon or evening and just watching all the DJs play their music. So fortunate to have been around so many great figures, whereas I was listening to them on the radio before and now I'm seeing them live in action. Music has always been a big part of my life, and that was just solidified by CYC. So my love of music probably is like the greatest awe-inspiring moment for me, because that's something I've been able to pass down to my students when I taught, to my own children. I had a cousin who was 13 years my junior, who went on to become a DJ, He moved to the Bay Area and he took all the Chicago sounds with him there. He started out when he was 16 here, Daniel Cervantes. And he became a DJ and used to do raves and house parties because it was much after, you know, it was like late 90s. Unfortunately, he passed away last year, but I have been reflecting on like, how did my love of music shape his life, and how beautiful a thing that was, because, you know, they were my shadows. Him and his brother were my shadows, and they were always around and they were always listening, and they're like, Elena, what's the name of this song? Elena, what's the name of that? How do you know so much about music? So I got to share this story with them many years ago. So I don't think it's just one moment. I think it's like the memories that came about as, you know, my time passed with CYC, and I was able to continue to, you know, just love music and learn about music and share that love with others, because it's a common factor in our lives, and it can be bonding. I mean, you could have somebody at a concert or a dance who's a stranger, but when you share that love and you're there and you're just rocking to the beat and, you know, everybody's fist pumping or jumping or dancing, it's such joy. And in a world right now where there's sometimes uncertainty or a little bit of hate being spewed here or there, you know, it's finding those moments and appreciating those moments so that we can find our commonalities and common ground.
I forgot the question. What do you find that you took with you from that time?
Awesome. Okay. So I took a lot from it. Being on the radio, they were some of the best times of my life. And I hate to say this, oh no, I don't hate to say this. So B96 and BMX and GCI, they were good. But I'll tell you, CYC and CRX ruled Chicago. We brought the songs out first. I think Harv would agree to this, that Saturday afternoons were both owned by Harv and I. We were back to back. A lot of people don't know this, but we were on at the same time. And I believe it was 3 to 5 we were on, and we both had the same type of program. We brought in artists from New York, from California, from Chicago. We interviewed them, we played their music the first time people heard about it. And so for me, anytime I was on the radio, it was just like you go into this little altar life and you're like, nothing matters in those moments that you're on the radio. So I think anytime I was just always happy.
Great. Now, do you feel that Latino women in radio today have the same challenges you have, or how do you view it today?
You know, I don't know. I think it's because of the times have changed. I don't find myself listening to radio a lot. I actually am still stuck in the time zone from our music. So I'll listen to, like, I'll put on a Julian mix or a Gino mix or somebody's mix in my car. So I can't really speak on that. I do know that even when I was in it, it was hard. Like, the first job offer I got was somewhere in Iowa, like some little town that I didn't even know. And I took the job, but then I got scared. I didn't want to leave my family. I didn't want to leave Little Village. I didn't want to leave home. So I didn't take it. But now, I don't know. I would imagine it is hard for, if you have a double whammy, you're a woman and you're Hispanic, maybe so, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think that some of those things still exist, but I also feel like because, I don't want to say radio's struggling, but because we have so many choices before us, and because we can make our own choices and control our own soundtrack to our lives, I think that maybe there are more opportunities because maybe there's less people looking to get into the field. That would be my case when I do turn on the radio. I tend to, like, you know, there's that, one of my kids loves that 93.9 The Light, and there's Delilah, and I'm like, what are you listening to? She's like, Mom, it's comforting. I'm like, okay, great. But, you know, the same like Milana, I really don't find myself listening to the radio as much. But when I do enjoy it, and I do hear varied voices, so I hope there are more opportunities for women. I would hope so, because we're already in 2025. So.
Great answers. But Milana, you at Q101 you had night moves like you mentioned, segment where a lot of people followed. So can you share what that experience was like and how it differed from your previous roles?
Oh, for me, it was awesome because my first job at Q101 was not on the radio. It was in the research department. And it was, I don't even know, I guess at Columbia College they had a board where you had job offers. So I answered one in. And it was basically like they put me in a room and you call people, this random list of people, and you play the snippets of music and they tell you like, yeah, 5, 6, 10. And you sit there, you're like, okay, you're doing that. So, but while I was in there, Carla Leonardo, rest in peace, she came in and she said, hey kid, I kind of like you. I need somebody for my show. And I'm like, oh, what show is that? And she said, you've got this sultry voice. It's night moves. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? And she said, just show up, be here Sunday at 6 o'clock, we're on. And that was it. And Q101 didn't want to pay me. So Carla paid me out of her pocket. She literally wrote me a check every Sunday as we were leaving the merchandise mart. She's like, here, you know, and so I was like her sidekick. I basically answered the phones and did the dedications, and thanks to CYC, I knew how to do that. I did the dedications, but to say you worked at Q101 was, I think, more for me than the actual experience.
That was huge. You should be so proud of yourself.
Right.
Absolutely.
Lena, tell us about being one of the cocktail twins. What the experience was like, and how did they name you the cocktail twins?
So I don't remember how it came up, but that's the man responsible over there. Harv, I don't know how you tagged us up. So Gina used to like to go out a lot. Well, and then so did I too. But who remember? Everybody here, I'm sure, but raise your hands if you remember house parties in the basements. Right? So the kegger parties, right, with the awesome DJs there, and so it was a good time, but literally, so I knew that my mom would die if I came home inebriated, and I was like, no, but we were out, you know, having a good time, and then Harv dumped us the cocktail twins. I'm like, my mom's gonna think I'm just like a bad person. You can't call me that. So I had to go home and explain to my mother but so when we went out to parties, Gina and I, which wasn't often because she also had strict grandparents, you know, but when we could sneak out, we were there. We were on 23rd and Ridgeway, or 24th and Ridgeway, which was like a block and a half over. Somebody had a basement and used to rent it out all the time. And I don't know who was in charge of getting the kegs, but there was always a keg. But there was also great music. So like, I was always there, and to this day, I am there for good music and dancing. Like, if you see my name, you're gonna see the dancing emoji. If I send a text to you, it's you, and my girlfriend back there, Chava, she can vouch for that. There's always the dancing emoji. We have a crew, you know, now that we're older, we still have a crew, and we have the concert crew. So the concert crew goes to dances, parties, and we're just up for it all the time. Of course, our professional responsibilities come first. However, we still know how to have a good time. So I don't know how Harv came up with that. I think it had something to do with Gina talking about the basement parties. But it was good to go out in the community and just hang out with friends, listen to great music, dance. I felt safe, even though sometimes we had to climb out of windows when the cops came to like escape the police, right? Because those were illegal. I mean, that was real. And I tell my kids I used to do that. I'm like, hey, to be real, this is what we used to do. But Gina definitely had a hand in that. And it was nothing but good times surrounded by great people like all of you. Just dancing and living for the music.
Just a note, my oldest two are here. Your mama didn't do any of that.
We want to make that clear and have it on record. We want it on record. But you mentioned Gina, who was invited to participate, as well as VJ Lozana and Candy Gomez. But we actually have the original Candy Gomez. Where is she? Original Candy. Stephanie.
She's over there.
Stephanie. Give her a hand.
Yo, props to you, girl, right here.
Right.
So how do you think your presence on the airways influenced younger Latinas? We'll close up with that.
When you asked that, all I could think of was back in the day, I had a listener, and Harv might have had the same listener. Her name was Sabrina, and she lived in Bridgeport. And she faithfully called every Saturday, and she said, you know, I want to be like you. I'm Hispanic, and I want you to help me because I want to be on the radio. And her mother, and I specifically remember this, her mother said that you're Hispanic, you can't be any of that because nomás quiere las güeras. And I was like, girl, that ain't true. You can do whatever you want. And, you know, I had her come down to the station and she was like, oh, this is very impressive. And so I think of her, and I think of her a lot, like now, like I go, I'm not gonna lie, I go on Facebook trying to look for her and stalk, you know, Facebook, but I can't find her. But when you ask, you know, how we affected Latinas, I think that the littles, you know, we did it because they were listening and they were calling us and we just gave them maybe some hope.
I like that what you said about hope because that's what, to me, that's what it was. It was like them listening to us, and even though I wasn't fortunate enough to have a career in radio like you, Milena, after CYC, I just like to think that during the time that I was there, I impacted someone or something. But then you carry these experiences with you because the love of broadcasting never left. And actually, before I was on CYC, and I'm really gonna age myself here, there was a show on Channel 5. This is when like there were like 7 TV stations, right? There was a show on Channel 5 called Kidding Around on Saturday mornings. Does anybody remember Kidding Around? Yep. Kidding Around, do, right? So that was their little tag song. I got to go on Kidding Around, and I filmed a segment. And guess what I was showing these people back in 1982? How to make guacamole. Right. Because, and that's why everybody eats guac now. I like to take credit for that. Transcended all the cultural boundaries and showed them how to eat something good. But, so it was that, then it was CYC, and then it was just the fortunate part of my life is working with all these kids who keep me young. And being able to tell them stories about that and sharing the video and sharing snippets. Like I'll probably go back and share this, and my coworkers, a couple of my coworkers found out what I was doing and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, many sides, because in between CYC, college, teaching, there were 2 restaurants, because I told you my dad was a restaurateur. So this all gave me storytelling ability, I like to say. I don't know if I'm the best storyteller, but I am a storyteller in my own right. And it allowed me to form relationships with strangers. And I don't think that there's anything more valuable than being able to reach out to someone you don't know and share something, being vulnerable, and getting a reaction from them. No matter what that reaction is, it's just like, they'll say, oh, I think that's cool, or what, you did what, or how did you do that? And it's just a sparker for connections, and I love making connections with new people, so I like to think I still influence my students. I will go back, I see Harv over there recording, so I'm grateful for that. I will probably go back and share. I'm working with a group of 8th graders this year who are amazing. So I'm the assistant principal at a Chicago public school, but I am, thank you, I get paid, so you don't have to applaud me. Like I make a good living. But I'm very lucky, and I'll be able to take this back to the 8th graders who I've been mentoring for 2 years already, and we're setting them up for success. So this will just continue to solidify that, like, hey, I grew up just like you, and you can do whatever you want. That's what it's all about.
Give another round of applause for the work.
Miss Stephanie, before you say something, can I say one last thing?
Sure.
So I'm gonna call you out, Harv. So about 6 months ago, I contacted him and I said, listen, I wanna be back on the radio. I think you and I had the best thing in Chicago. Let's do something together. And Harv said, let me look into it, or something like that. So if anybody here knows how me and Harv can host a show, I'm not looking to get paid. I just want to have fun. Reach out.
Woo!
Podcast. Right? Let's do it.
Partnership. There you go.
Can I say one more thing? I just want to thank Stephanie and Pablo and thank you all for coming out because I didn't know who I was going to be talking today, and you guys are awesome. But thanks to Stephanie and Pablo because they reached out to me and I was like, you want to do what and what? And I'm like, of course I'll do it because I just thought it would be interesting, and this has been a great experience and will serve for my students to learn more. So thank you all.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Give it up to the ladies of CYC here. Just so you know, when I listened to you both on the radio, it was I don't think I ever would have dreamed that Benji Espinoza, who rest in peace, that man did a lot for a lot of careers. And if you did not pass by that man, I feel bad because that man was so rich in his knowledge of music, knowledge and when he saw talent, and even if he didn't, he was gonna bring that talent out of you. And who would have known that I would have been on a radio station, whether it was just a little bit. It was the time of my life to understand what you all were like, and I can sit there and say that you all were my inspiration to even think about doing and being that, so thank you. So with that, the Latinos in the House Conference Showcase gives you this recognition award proudly presented to you both. In celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, we proudly honor your extraordinary contributions to the music and entertainment industry and commend the everlasting positive impact impact of your exceptional work on this given day, September 13th, 2025. So you both will be staying up here because we have the CYC reunion. So we're gonna all take pictures in the back afterwards. So please, everybody on the CYC panel, please do not leave. We wanna make sure that we capture this moment. Also, we will be honoring Harv Roman. So at this time, I'm going to ask that the CYC panel please come up, and we're gonna turn around and take just a little brief intermission to get all these chairs ready for you all.
Really quick, before this happens,